You think your zero-based budget failed because you lack discipline. But what if I told you your brain was working against you the entire time? In the next 4 minutes, I'm going to explain why most people abandon their budget by week 2. And it has nothing to do with willpower. It's about a psychological concept called locus of control, and understanding it might be the key to finally breaking free from the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Here's the familiar story. You start a zero-based budget, full of motivation. You assign every single dollar a job. For the first week, it feels amazing. You're in control. You see exactly where your money is going. But that feeling doesn't last. By week 3, the spreadsheet is a source of anxiety. By week 5, it feels like a prison. Soon, you've quietly given up, telling yourself the same old story. I'm just not disciplined enough. But you're wrong. Let's talk about something called locus of control. It's how much you believe you can actually influence the outcomes in your life. People with a strong internal locus of control feel like they're steering the ship. They're more likely to save and stick to financial goals. The brutal ironic is that traditional zero-based budgeting, while designed to give you control, can actually destroy it. How? By forcing you to micromanage every single dollar. At first, it's empowering, but after a few weeks, your brain experiences decision fatigue. Every small choice, every coffee, every grocery item drains your mental energy. When that energy is gone, your brain starts to doubt you can succeed. The system meant to give you agency makes you feel less in control. And when you feel less in control, you quit. It's not laziness, it's neuroscience. But it goes deeper. By assigning every dollar, you're constantly telling your brain, this is all I have. Your brain hears that as a threat, a state of scarcity. And when it perceives a threat, it doesn't get more logical, it gets more emotional. This is why you suddenly make that $40 impulse purchase. Your brain is reacting. It's the same reason most diets fail. The moment something feels restrictive, our primal response is to rebel. Every time you break your budget, just this once, it creates shame. And shame leads to avoidance. You stop looking at the spreadsheet, you stop tracking, and the cycle continues. So how do you make it work? The secret is to do it differently, to build your sense of control instead of breaking it. First, reframe control as freedom. Instead of thinking, I can't spend, think, I'm choosing to direct my money toward what matters. The psychological difference is huge. Second, reduce decision fatigue by automating your system. Set up automatic transfers for savings and bills before the money hits your main account. You make the big decisions once, not 100 times a month. And third, and this is crucial, build in a freedom fund. Give 5 or 10% of your budget to pure discretionary spending. No guilt, no questions. This small pocket of freedom makes the entire system feel intentional, not restrictive. Suddenly, you're not fighting your brain anymore. You're working with it. And that changes everything. Let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't really about spreadsheets. It's not about the numbers in the cells. What we're really talking about here is the profound difference between feeling like you're just managing your life versus feeling like you're actually building your life. Think about it. Most people who are stuck in that paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, they aren't there because they're bad with money. That's a myth. They're there because deep down, they've internalized a belief that their circumstances are mostly outside of their control, that life is just something that happens to them, and their job is to react. And that belief, in a strange and powerful way, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you genuinely don't believe you can shape your future, why would you even try? Why would you go through the hassle of sticking to a budget or planning ahead for a future you don't think you can influence? It would feel pointless. But here's where things get interesting. The moment you understand that a system like zero-based budgeting can be designed to work with your psychology instead of against it, everything changes. You stop looking at a budget as a prison, as a long list of things you can't do. Instead, you start to see it as proof, tangible evidence that you can influence your own outcomes. Every single month that you successfully tell your money where to go, you are literally providing your brain with a small piece of evidence. And over time, those pieces of evidence add up. They begin to rewire your brain to believe more and more deeply that you are in control. And what happens when you truly believe you have that control? You start making better choices, almost automatically. You're more likely to save. You're more likely to invest for the future. You're more likely to pause before an impulse purchase and ask, does this actually align with the life I'm trying to build? This isn't about white-knuckling it with willpower. This is about getting your own psychology to finally work for you instead of against you. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from all of this, let it be this. The traditional idea of budgeting doesn't fail because people lack discipline. It fails because it was designed by accountants for spreadsheets. It was not designed by people who understand the quirks, the shortcuts, and the complexities of the human brain. So if you've tried budgeting before and quit after a few weeks, you weren't weak. You weren't a failure. You were simply fighting a battle against your own neurology, and that's an exhausting fight to have. It's just evidence that you needed a different set of tools, a different approach entirely. And that's the good news. Understanding the psychology behind it changes the entire game. When you learn to reframe control not as restriction, but as freedom, when you automate the important decisions so you don't have to drain your willpower every single day, and when you purposefully build in freedom for discretionary spending so you don't feel deprived, the entire dynamic shifts. The budget stops feeling like something you're doing to yourself, and it becomes something you are doing for your future self. And that shift in perspective, from seeing this as restriction to seeing it as genuine empowerment, that is the exact moment you start to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. For good. If any of this is resonating with you, if you're ready to try again but with a new playbook, I'm putting together a complete guide on these psychological budgeting strategies, going deeper than the standard advice you always hear. The link for that is in the show notes. And more than that, if you felt that specific frustration of starting a budget, feeling motivated, and then falling off, let me know in the comments. I'm building this channel specifically for people who are tired of the standard advice and want to understand the real psychology behind breaking paycheck-to-paycheck living. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.